Hello YouTube, I am your host, the Crimson Warrior, and today I wanted to talk with you guys about getting better at Yu-Gi-Oh! And to start this series, because I do want this to become a video series where I help you guys and you guys help me get better at Yu-Gi-Oh! We have to define what is good. Now for me, what is good is ending up competing at top level events and doing well against top-level players. But being good can be being good against your friend group. Being good can be topping your locals. You all have to decide what is good for you. What level of good do you want to achieve? And don't instantly think you're going to get to the top of the World Player League and everything from being the best in your player group. That's how you're very quickly going to get frustrated. The middle step is very important if becoming good at a macro level of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a goal for you. You'll have to be in the trenches, digging through your locals every week, learning the hard lessons, learning your card interactions, and everything. Now, what I wanted to discuss in this video is analyzing your opponents and seeing what they're trying to do. And in this meta, it's really the one turn build a board. More than 60% of your opponents are trying to establish a board and stop you from playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Using either one or two or more forms of negations, up to 6 to 12 negations in some cases, if you get super crazy with it, or a couple of negations and putting you into a simplified game state, like under Macrocosmos or Vanity Fiend, or maybe they have the Lancia in hand if you're an Orcus player and now you're in a game state where none of your combos can go off. All of these are part of the turn one build a board strategy. Now, with that in mind, you can either do one of two things right away. You can, one, win the dice roll, which has nothing to do with your skill, and that's not what we're here for, but it's still something. You win the dice roll you set up before they do. They're at the mercy of your defense, and you establish your dominance before they are able to. That is a way to win in this format. It's called a dice roll format for a reason. Going on, planning for going second or your opponent to take first and you're going to be coming up from behind is really important in your deck building. If you consider the fact that every once in a while you're probably going to be forced to go second, and you build your deck a little more balanced instead of how everyone just tries to build their deck turn one or turn two, you can kind of get away with either. I know a balanced approach in today's format is an incredible idea, but cards like Super Polymerization to help you come up from behind, your opponent can't respond to it. Cards like Evenly Matched, Pancratop, Twin Twisters, these are all things that can help you come up from behind, wipe your opponent, swing and take something else out for free. This wipes out your opponent's entire field. Clears back row. These are all things that help you with going second. And if you just consider that it's going to happen every once in a while, you can build your deck with a couple of these cards mained, and you may just get a couple of games because of that. Also, for all of you who don't like Called by the Grave, hand traps are a staple in today's format, as well as Sky Striker is a top deck, as well as Salamangreat is still meta. We all rely on cards being in our graveyard, and getting a +1 to stop a play, even though you're wasting a card so you're coming out even. Getting rid of Salamangreat's ability to recur resources, getting rid of Sky Striker's Ray so that you can finally clear their field. These are all things that add up in the long game, basically. expecting hand traps is going to help you win the game a lot more often. And with the knowledge of going second, you could also build your deck to go second. Instead of wanting to go first like everyone else, you could build an OTK deck. You want your opponent to go first. You fill your deck with cards like Super Poly, cards like Pankratops, so you instantly get +1 advantages over your opponent. Cards like Evenly Matched in the main if you're like an Altergeist player, even any player. If you're trying to go second in today's meta, cards like Evenly Matched, cards like Super Poly mained at 3 are not going to do you any disservice whatsoever and put you in a really good position to OTK your opponent. Just get rid of all of their life points in one turn. That is the best if you're trying to be a turn 2 player. If you're a turn 2 player, you're really trying to not go past a turn 2. You can continue, and your deck's designed to break through boards. You have a resource game. You know all of these things that you still need to keep track of. But ideally, if you're going second in today's day and age of Yu-Gi-Oh, you want your opponent done that turn. You want to combo off, you want to Super Poly, you want to destroy your opponent's board, and you want it to be over with very quickly so that you get the win. Now, that is not prevalent in today's Yu-Gi-Oh because there isn't enough to stop your opponent from comboing off. Even with all of these hand traps, we've proven that we can keep extending, and I think that's why these promos and the Megatins are coming out, which I still haven't read, and I still need to get the news on that. But that's another topic for another day. Yes, we were talking about the Megatins and going off, basically. So, when the Megatins coming out, these combo decks might start to have a harder time with these control cards. I don't know what they do. I need to look that up, but the format might start to evolve, and going second could be something that players start to consider, start to need to build their deck for again. Now that you understand the current state of the meta, you can start gearing your deck to fight it. Instead of saying that your opponent had all the answers, why don't you look at what all of the answers were and how you could have maybe potentially fixed that problem in your deck building process. Maybe instead of not being honest with yourself when you lose, that maybe you misplayed and things could have gone better had you done better at X point. You take responsibility and you continue to evolve in the game. Getting better at Yu-Gi-Oh! It takes a lot of being willing to be honest with yourself, and honestly just the eating shit. Like, you just gotta eat crap and just keep taking your losses until things turn around. Like, I lost for a year straight when I first started playing this game because I didn't know the interactions. I didn't have a deck. The deck that I was building was on the ban list, and I basically got better as they slowly started taking cards off of the list, and I learned more and more interactions and became better as a player. And this was a very slow process. I could only play once a week, similar to now, because between this, work, and all of the other things that I'm trying to do or relaxing half the time, there's not a lot of times to be spending on card games. But this was my commentary on getting better at Yu-Gi-Oh! And the current format, basically kind of looking at what your opponent's trying to do and how you could interpret that and use it to your advantage. The meta, or even your group of friends, is just all about analyzing it and seeing what you can use to your advantage. If your opponent uses their graveyard a lot, you can kick cards out of their graveyard. Cards like Called by the Grave, cards like DD Crow. If your opponent relies on banishing Orchist, then maybe Lancia would be a good choice for you. Or even there's a trap that didn't, I think it's Imperial Iron Wall, that stops you from banishing. A little slower, but if you go first, it's set up. it's something you can do, that's for sure. So if you guys like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I'd like to continue making the series of how to get better at Yu-Gi-Oh! Comment down below, tell me more ideas or topics that you'd like me to cover for getting better at Yu-Gi-Oh! What you thought of this video. Subscribe if you enjoy my content, and hit the notification bell if you'd like to see every time I'm uploading, because it ain't stopping now. And also, I am now on Instagram as the Crimson X Warrior, if you'd like to see me there, and on Twitter as well, although not as active, at Crimson Warrior as well, if you'd like to check me out on other platforms. Peace, guys.